Welgemeend built in 1697, second oldest continuously occupied homestead in Cape Town, in South Africa for that matter. And a very important cultural icon, but is a building that needs very specialized care. And, to have the additional challenge of looking after a very cantankerous but beautiful old lady like this is not so simple. And hence the Friends of Welgemeend, this annual event whereby we raise money to keep her in the style that she's grown accustomed to and deserves to be kept in. So over time, we evolved every August. We have the opportunity to hang a number of works and have an art exhibition at Welgemeend in order to draw attention to the beautiful space that it is, to raise money, but also to celebrate art and to share it with people in the broader Cape Town community. And it's always extremely special for me because if you think about it, these works will never hang together again. The theme this year is Onbekend, Unknown. We have 118 works on display, covering a period of 106 years of South African art history, and there are 86 artists presented. The earliest work is 1916 by William Timlin. The newest works in 2024. There's nowhere else in South Africa where you can see, I think, today, 106 years of South African art history. So the unknown has actually always been with us. It's in our history, it's in our now, and it's in our future. That gave me the opportunity to show artists that were well known 100 years ago. That's now unknown. There are works by artists that were still well known, but they are parts of the oeuvre that's not so well collected, and they are also unknown. So I can step back to historical well-known artists and put up a premium on a Frans that you most probably wouldn't recognize. At the same time, post 1960 to 2000, when we went through the cultural drought in South Africa because of the cultural boycott, when we continued to produce art, but our artists were wiped off the international art arena. They were boycotted. We didn't go to the Venice Biennale anymore, not to the Sao Paulo Biennale. And a lot of the people who produced incredible work in that time just disappeared out of the art world from a historical point of view. Nothing is written about them. They weren't exhibited anywhere internationally, and people just didn't know about them. And still, when we produce, when we actually present these works today, next to some of the compatriots, people are amazed at the quality and the insight and the excitement of that these works could have brought at the time if they were only shown. So I wanted to pay a little bit of homage, as I every year do at Welgemeend. I try and find a few artists that I think are completely overlooked or neglected or deserve better attention than they do. So there's always a component of that in here. We started with works by Jürgen Schadenberg, came to South Africa in the early 1950s, worked for Drum magazine, and he documented the cultural lives of the white, black and colored people in South Africa. And he discovered to his amazement that there was some parallels in those worlds that were not shared at all. The next room I play around a little bit. I love Fred Page's work, as you will know. There's this macabre sense of work and use of color. He created these works which were infused with humor, and often in a way that you have to spend time and to read the title is always such a delight for me. I try to look at the work, yes, but then I read the title, and then I normally just burst out laughing and think, "Jeez, Frank, how can you mistake something so badly? You didn't see what it's about at all." And I love that interplay that he creates. There are two sculptures by English Taylor. The one is made of rammed earth to create this sort of almost sphinx-like face. And that face is disintegrating. It's meant to disintegrate over time. So after I bought it, I didn't know that, of course. I had it in my home, and gee whiz, I get there one morning and one little pebble on the lid fell. My phone Angus, if it's coming out, I need some glue or something. My sculpture is disintegrating. And he said, "Well, Frank, it's supposed to be. It's getting like this." I said, "Gee whiz, if you put that on a sticker before I put it." But anyway, so he's explaining that it's part of that thing is to show how everything erodes over time. But it still gives its beauty because you will see it like it was, you will remember it. And eventually it will even be just this vague sort of notion of what it was originally, but it will have some permanent presence, like the Sphinx that's where you can imagine what it looked like. And then the other side, he did one where he sculpted something in bronze, a self-portrait, and then he put it in a furnace and he burned it. It's called burned self-portrait. Maybe referring to the anguish through which an artist goes in the process of creating. And I love the two of them together because they talk about, I guess, the impermanence of our life. Then opposite on the left are two beautiful sculptures by Henry Davies. They right underneath the Deborah Bell, which sort of talks about the intersection between myth and reality, between history and the now. So equine for keeping these secrets, being confronted by these two faces of Angustel, and this side is a guided to a who sort of has got a head referred to the Leidenberg heads, which from these sort of enigmatic series of heads they found here in Leidenberg. They're not sure who ever sculpted them clay, and then he's got that sort of face with the Asian structure with the sort of ball on the top of his head, a la Atlas. And I thought at night they will have an amazing conversation with each other in there. And on the right is a work by Welgemeend, which on the face of it looks like a cardboard sculpture, but it's actually bronze, painted to reflect cardboard. And then there's even a badly torn piece of a map stuck on top of it. Judith Mason often worked with that interface between our lives as it is right now, because she grew up from all accounts, in a very abusive household, had a very difficult relationship with the mother and with religion. Then there's the now where you live in, and then there's your open expectations of the future, which is where we all are. We are in that moment. We should neither be trapped by the past nor caught up by our expectations of the future. Otherwise, we can't live the now. And that is really what she sort of celebrates in that book. And you'll see that she then refers back to the creation of things. There's a star being born, the start of human life, and it's a very positive and beautiful painting, I think. In this room, I really deal with works that speaks of a meditative practice. All the works here are quite quiet in a way. They are often challenging in terms of their material. None of them, on the face of it, I hope, would be obvious as to the meaning thereof. The meaning of all these works at first glance is unknown. You have to engage with the work, read up about it, check it more and more, engage with the art in order to truly understand. We start with Kendall gears, which crusted metal, and then barbed wire, and then you impress it on handmade paper. It talks about us being trapped behind the razor wire. Our new boundaries, the way that we live, are defined by the razor wire that keeps us safe. You can almost see through it, the grid it creates, and that will help me to put these two works of Tarot Box next to it, which are sort of fold out like structures, which you can see right through them. And he also talks about the fact that in the past, we orientate ourselves by maps. We say, this is where I was. Nowadays, we just put in destination, go. And there's some of that loss of perspective that come out of the fact that we don't use maps anymore. But in many cases, maps are useless, as they've always been, because if two families live on both sides of a river and some colonial power decided this is now Zimbabwe, this is South Africa, you could have been family, and that artificiality that sometimes comes in, which is sort of destroyed by cutting up and repositioning these things. This is a work by Siabongafani, being versed on the scene relatively recently. Makes these beautiful clay pots that say Mervyn fire, create these beautiful textures on it, celebrating his heritage in Eastern Cape, but also he says the vibrancy of township life. But I like the anthropomorphic shape of it. It almost looks like a torso, doesn't it, with the face? And I think it speaks very nicely to what Kendrick is doing in a different media. On the right is work by Kathy Abrams, and she draws these fish scales with gold in on canvas. And she starts with a straight line, and she does it while she meditates. You can imagine how long this takes. But eventually, the way your hand goes and everything, it starts picking up a rhythm. And can you see, it's almost like it's rippling to an unseen, one felt breeze that's going across it. And I like that sense of movement. This work by Jean Geiger up there. On the right-hand side, it's mostly painted straight on canvas, and then the rest is painted on scrim, and then you can see that cutout is in scrim, and then there's some stitching of the scrim onto the canvas, and sort of playing with what you see and what you can't see. This work by Tom Kilbourn basically deals with memory triggers. So all of us read a book, had an LP. If you see that cover, you think about the parties you went to, the people you danced with, what was happening at that time, and that triggers sort of a range of things. So all of these things, books that you read and different things, trigger different memories in us, which you would otherwise have forgotten. But here's your brain, and it's all there in files. And as one gets older, I find it's not so easy to retrieve that file anymore. But so sometimes you need this memory trigger.